I don't know if it's just recently, but the world seems to be getting a lot angrier at the United States. So what would happen if the US decided to take on every country in the world? America against the entire world. Let's say some person went a little crazy and somehow pissed off everyone in the world, and now they are declaring war on all 50 states. Titans like China, Russia, North Korea, all working together, while America has no allies. Just brute force, good strategy, and semi-conventional warfare. Also, I'm going to get rid of nukes because that turns into a very different thing. So where does the US even start? The first thing is to lock down all its borders. Canada to the north and Mexico to the south are natural targets. Not because they're major threats, but because they sit on the US's front porch. Canada has a modest, professional military. It's capable, well-trained, and technologically up to date, but in terms of numbers, firepower, and mobility, it simply can't stand toe-to-toe with the might of the US. Although Canada was definitely on something during World War I, look up Passchendaele, it'll blow your mind. Canada's vast landmass and small population make it hard to defend, and while its terrain is a pain to invade, the US has definitely been through a lot worse. It would likely take over strategic Canadian territory quickly to create a buffer zone. Meanwhile, Mexico might be a tougher nut to crack in terms of urban warfare and insurgency, given its experience dealing with violent internal conflict. But again, the US has overwhelming technological superiority, not to mention deeply embedded intelligence networks that would probably already have plans mapped out. Once those borders are secure, the US effectively builds a continental fortress, because weirdly enough, the geography of the United States is almost made for defense. And that's definitely what the US needs to do when you fight several hundred countries. Massive oceans on both sides create natural barriers that are also constantly monitored. The world would require fleets, fuel, and flawless coordination to cross while avoiding detection. The Atlantic and Pacific are bottlenecks that favour the defender. Invading armies would have to sustain enormous logistical chains just to get within striking distance, and the US would know they were coming from hundreds of miles away. But let's say some boats make it to land. Job over? Not even close. We can't forget that the US has more privately owned guns than people. That's still crazy to wrap my antenna around. And it turns every town, every back road, every hill into a potential battleground. Even if a foreign army managed to break through and occupy parts of the country, it wouldn't be a clean occupation. The American population, fragmented and divided as it can be in peacetime, would likely rally with terrifying resolve if their homeland were threatened. Or at least I'm hoping. Just get them off Twitter. Okay, so what is the US working with here? Well, it doesn't just have a lot of weapons, it has some of the most advanced, versatile, and battle-tested gear in existence. The Gerald R. Ford-class supercarriers are essentially mobile cities that can project air power across large areas of the ocean. One of them can launch over 75 aircraft and sustain operations for months without resupply. Then there are the Ohio-class submarines, stealthy giants capable of launching ballistic missiles from beneath the waves. We're excluding nukes in this scenario, but even with conventional arms, these subs could decimate fleets or key enemy installations before anyone even knew they were there. Wait, did you hear that? No, you didn't, Cools. That was the B-2 Spirit Stealth bomber. That thing can fly high, stay hidden, and hit targets with surgical precision. It's a ghost in the sky. And the MAM-104 Patriot missile system offers layered air defense that can knock out ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and enemy aircraft with chilling accuracy. And this is only a taste of what the US has in their arsenal. The US military is spending nearly $850 billion in 2025 alone. We're talking cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, long-range fires, space operations, and modernization of every branch. This kind of budget gives the US a deep chest of capabilities that most other countries can't match, even collectively. And remember, this is during peacetime. If war broke out, this spending would likely double, maybe triple. Like, imagine you're watching an MMA guy fight for sport. Now imagine how he'd fight if his life was on the line. No rules, just kill or be killed. Yo, it's a lot more terrifying. So the US is invincible, right? Nah, we're forgetting really important stuff here. Supply chains. One of the major problems the US faced during World War II was managing the massive logistics of a global conflict. Troops, ammo, food, oil, you name it. But the US does anything but stay still for military strategy, and boy did they learn from it. They built a sprawling logistics and transport system worldwide, complete with military and civilian contractors, aircraft fleets, and global bases. Sure, in a world versus America scenario, those bases would be early targets, but the US has fallback plans. Airlift capability, cargo planes, refueling tankers, all these are built to keep operations going even when ports and routes are cut off. And domestically, the US has enough food, energy, and raw materials to support a long war. So the US could definitely be trapped, but not as trapped as the world would hope. So that's it, right? US invincible? Video over? Nah. You know the rest of the world wouldn't just sit still. Countries like China, Russia, France, Germany, the UK, most of Western Europe really, and India would be the real muscle of the anti-US coalition. China would throw its industrial might and massive population into the fight. Its navy and air force are growing fast, and it would try to dominate the Pacific. Europe would try to choke the Atlantic and use their advanced tech to match the US on certain fronts. Russia might cause trouble at the margins, but after what we've seen in Ukraine, they're definitely looking like more bark that bite. India brings numbers and growing tech, but it's still catching up in global logistics and air and naval power. Meanwhile, countries in the Middle East, Africa, and South America would likely contribute troops, bases, and supplies. It's a massive coalition, but with that many cooks in the kitchen, coordination becomes a nightmare. Where things get really fuzzy is on the World Wide Web. The US has some of the most extensive and advanced intelligence agencies in the world. CIA, NSA, you name it. They have eyes and ears everywhere. They'd use satellites, AI, signal intercepts to anticipate and disrupt enemy moves. But the rest of the world is caught up in cyber warfare. China and Russia in particular are known for sophisticated hacking operations. So you've got both sides trying to crash each other's systems, jam communications, and sabotage infrastructure. This part of the war might not even be visible to civilians, but it would be the most high-stakes battle of all, because whoever controls information controls everything else. It could honestly decide the victor, but with so much behind closed doors, we wouldn't really know who could win until it happens. Also, side note, don't let this happen. Let's not get to this hypothetical, yeah? So US is trapped in their continent, but not really. The US has bases in Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Many of those would be under siege or outright lost in the first days of war. But you know there'd be a big battle for all of these strongholds worldwide. A few, like in the Pacific or the Persian Gulf, could possibly swing to the US's favour. The Persian Gulf in particular is critical because it connects to the oil routes. If the US can hold the Strait of Hormuz and maintain control in parts of the Middle East, it could keep its military engine fueled. But if the coalition manages to boot them out and block those oil flows, the American war machine would start winding down a lot quicker. Taiwan would be another battleground, not just for location, but for its microchip production. It's the silicon heart of modern warfare. The US would do everything to hold or secure Taiwan to maintain access to the world's most advanced electronics. Losing it would mean falling behind in drone warfare, missile guidance, and cyber defense. This might be one of the fiercest flashpoints of the war. If the US goes too hard outside of its borders, it might stretch itself thin. It would have to pick its battles, control the oceans, hold key shipping lanes, dominate cyberspace, and protect the homeland. Going full offensive and trying to occupy Europe or Asia would be suicide. The better move is containment and deterrence. Hold off landings, raid enemy supply chains, sabotage infrastructure, and bleed the coalition's morale. Honestly, the US would have to be really smart. Well, some of them would have to be. So could the US survive? When I first started this video, I was definitely thinking the US was cooked. But now I'm leaning towards, yeah, it could definitely survive. Maybe even flourish. It's got the tools, the terrain, the people, and the know-how. But could it win? That's too hard to tell. In a prolonged war with the entire world, it might not matter who's left standing. It might just be about who falls the slowest. Maybe it ends in a stalemate. Maybe the coalition fractures from internal politics. Or maybe, just maybe, the world manages to starve America into submission. But we're missing something here. How would this conflict even start? What kind of insane event would make the entire planet go to war with one country? Was it a power grab gone wrong? Did the world decide they had enough of the US? Maybe that very answer could be the deciding factor. What do you think? Who would win? Who would have started the war? Is there an underdog country that could really take the US down? Let me know in the comments below.